Small business owners, entrepreneurs, medium startups, and VCs, this one's for you. Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line, Balancing Evolution with Execution, hosted by Elevate Talent Solutions founder and CEO, Ron Miller. Through Ron's own hard-won wisdom, along with an array of luminaries across the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you'll glean priceless wisdom that will help you see past the day-to-day grind and into the future where you can achieve innovation and elevation to ensure your business is fulfilling and profitable. It's time for Beyond the Bottom Line, Balancing Evolution with Execution. Take it away, Ron.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bottom Line, the podcast where we admit careers aren't neat, tidy ladders. They're messy arcs full of detours, pivots, and the occasional faceplant. And let's be real. So if you've been in talent acquisition long enough, you've probably had that moment in your career, that interview where you meet someone and you just know one day they're going to be laying on their friend's floor, pants down in full panic mode, screaming, "That's nice, I'm delay," like George-Costanza, right? But then there are those rare ones, those people that walk in, own the room, flip the interview on you in the best way possible. And that for me is today's guest, Katy Shapiro. Katy, she came in prepared, researched with questions that actually made me sweat. And I've sat through more interviews than probably anybody. And honestly, she became what I've always said, and Katy, I'm going to probably embarrass you here because you don't know this.
Okay.
I've used Katy as an example of one of the best hires I have ever made and one of the best interviews I have ever had. Katy's worked her way into my training sessions over the years without ever knowing. And it's not because she just checked the boxes, but because I could see a potential for her. Since then, her arc has been incredible, right? Coming from the Franklin Institute, for our Philly listeners out there, we all love the Franklin Institute, to being named one of Cannes' top 50 talent acquisition professionals in the US. And now the founder of Unapologetic Ambition, all while building a voice that empowers women to rise in leadership without apologizing for it. So, and here's the kicker. We both ended up building businesses almost within an exact same year as each other. So today, Katy and I are talking about career arcs, what's changed, what we've learned, and why, after all the zigzags, we are still actually in business doing this stuff. Katy Shapiro, welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line.
Thank you so much, Ron. I'm so excited to be here. Even though our paths have not been in a straight line and definitely a roller coaster ride, somehow we've made it full circle to be back together today on a similar journey.
Absolutely. What I find real about this is even after all these years, you and I met in, I want to say it's either 07 or 08,
Yeah.
when you and I first met. And even though we haven't worked together since 2010, we've always maintained some form of contact.
Yes.
Where it's either questions or support or ideas or just saying hi. Like, we've maintained that contact. And I have beyond enjoyed watching your development. The moment that you walked in, I knew that you were going to do something great. I didn't know what it was, but you could tell. You're one of those people. And yeah, you probably didn't know this, but yes, I have used you for 20 years almost in a lot of my training and examples. For those of you listening that have been through my training, you'll know that I've mentioned this. I always say there was somebody that walked in that changed my view of how an interview should go.
I think I lost you.
And that is today's guest, Katy Shapiro. Because Katy, I will never forget, we came in and listen, at the time, I thought I was a great interviewer. I had been in talent acquisition for a while. I had grown in my career. We were building something unique in a brand new market at the time, which you were a huge part of that success. And honestly, your drive, your ambition, and your success ratio, without that, I probably would not have grown early in my career. Having an individual like you on my team allowed me, because remember, they used to send me to Pittsburgh for the summer every year.
Yeah.
You didn't get to witness the whole effect of that, but because I had people like you that I had hired, the leaders of tomorrow allowed me to be able to go do that. I've used you as that measuring stick over the years, how you conduct an interview, what you really look for, how you spot hidden talent. I remember having a conversation with those around me in hire decision areas of, I want to hire this person, like, but she hasn't done recruiting. And I'm like, you're not connecting the dots.
Right.
And I think that's where our connection began, was I think we saw something there. We didn't know what it was. We were young, stupid kids running around. We know everything. We know better, but there was just something there. And for me, that's what it was. I mean, you came in first, like, listen, there's only been one other person that walks like you. You walked in and you walk with purpose.
Yes.
It's not I am better than you. It's just you're comfortable with who you are. You know what you wanted, and you walked with confidence that people don't see.
And I have to credit that to my upbringing. I was raised by a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. So our house was, you said what was on your mind, you got straight to the point, you walk with purpose. Anything you do is with purpose. You start at 100%. That's the starting point. Anything above that is where you want to be. And so I have to credit my father for that piece.
Well, they did a good job of rubbing that off, right? Because you just showcase that quiet confidence and attitude, right? And this is a great lesson for recruiters. Like, if you've never been through my training or heard this spiel before, recruiters, they don't just fill seats. They recognize potential.
Yes.
And Katy closed me on her being the one for the job that I was hiring for. I remember going through my whole spiel. And at the time, my interview technique was horrible. It was, let me sell you on the role. Let me sell you on what we're going to do. And then I'm going to open up for questions, which I didn't anticipate you having. And you did something completely unexpected. Like, you literally, I still see this. You sat there, changed your positioning, you got into this seat, and you opened up this book, and you're like, well, yes, I do have some very well thought out, articulate questions that I'm going to make you shit your pants on right now, because I don't know that you know the answer, and I don't know that you're a right fit for me. It blew me away. It is one of the few times in my life I have been stumped in an interview. But that's the hidden potential that I think a lot of recruiters and talent acquisition professionals just completely miss today. They just miss.
Yeah. And I think,
so
if I could share just a funny piece to that, you've done such a great job talking me up, but I think authenticity is so important, right? That yes, I walk with a purpose, and yes, I am extremely prepared, but I also fumble the ball sometimes. I'm a little clunky. And I don't know if you remember this, but my phone call to you after the interview, do you remember that? The phone call. So for your listeners, I think it's only fair to share the importance of leaning into your authenticity, because it shows a different part of you that also tells whether or not you're a cultural fit for a business. I called you to thank you for the interview and say it was a pleasure meeting you, and I appreciate you considering me. But I role reversed and I said, it was great meeting you. Thanks for coming in. It was something ridiculous like that. And then I realized that I role reversed, and I said, oh my God, I just role reversed. I'm so used to doing interviews, and I had an entire internal monologue out in my outside voice. And then I said, well, now you're never going to hire me. So it was great meeting you, and I hope you have a nice life. Our next call was you offering me the job, which I was I told he's now my husband, he was my fiance at the time. I said, well, I'm not getting that job. I mean, I nailed the interview, I think, but I totally flubbed the after call, and I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important to share those moments, because as great as we all could be, there's a quick fall from grace sometimes. Hopefully it's still a match.
Oh, that ledge is easier to go over than following a pack of lemmings. You always walk on it. It just hope, like in recruiting, you know that you're going to drop a ball. You're going to screw something up. If you're not messing up, you're not learning. But in that authenticity of juggling all those balls, and you got that mental internal monologue going, and you just out there.
Yes.
Sometimes that realness is like, this is somebody that I just need to bring on, because not only is the potential there and the attitude, but the ownership of what she just did. She's going to make mistakes and not be afraid to own them. For me, at least, how do you not move forward with someone like this? Because, listen, at the end of the day, she's either going to blow my doors away and exceed all expectations, or she's going to make me laugh my ass off once a week. So it's going to be one of the two. Let's go. Giddy up, right?
Sometimes both.
Oh my
Sometimes
God.
both.
I hadn't thought about that for a long time. Maybe that's something I do need to work in the future trainings that I do. So let me tell you about how that ended.
Yeah. I used to tell the recruiters, obviously all recruiters have a pre-screen, right? You have a certain number of questions that you have to make sure that the person is qualified to work for you. Yes, this is our pre-screen, but I do not want you asking these questions 1, 2, 3, 4. We're human beings. We want to talk about ourselves. We're excited about the potential of a job. You're excited about the potential of bringing them on. Start a conversation. Work these mandatory questions into it, but don't forget that in recruiting, you're dealing with human capital. No two people are the same. Everybody is a unique individual. Everybody is at a different place in their career. Everybody has a different why as to why they're applying for this job at this time with your company. And if you just meet them there, you can have this great human experience, right? That you'll get more out of, that you'll find people that are really a good long-term fit for your company. Maybe not even in the role you're recruiting for, but in a different role. And you start referring those people around. But you miss that if you get lost in the rigidity of pre-screen questionnaires and system processes.
Yeah, absolutely. Love for you to share. You weren't a recruiter before. You weren't in talent acquisition. So what was it that really interested you in making, you were early in your career, right? So we got to keep the honest track here. You were early in your career, but with what you were doing in hospitality and tourism, you could have went down a completely different path following that experience and probably met a lot of dead ends.
Yeah.
What attracted you into making and so confident in saying, I can pivot from this to this? What was that for you?
So at the Franklin Institute, they were growing rapidly and starting to bring in new exhibits, which required us to hire, especially in the admissions department and in the guest service department, a large quantity of people for a short amount of time. We had to be creative and come up with these hiring events. And we hadn't done that before. I'd had a little bit of exposure during my summer jobs in Wildwood, New Jersey. We started to do these events and they became a big part of my job for the last few years that I was there. And I just loved it. First of all, I love the high volume pace. I need to be busy all the time. But I love that you could meet all of these different people at different stages of their lives. A lot of them in the Franklin Institute were young and also, looking for part-time jobs. And building those programs out became a core function of my job. Then life happens, right? I unexpectedly found myself as a single mom. And the schedule in hospitality and tourism, weekends, holidays, that wasn't really constructive anymore. I said, I really have to do something different. I love what I've been doing. I think I want to lean into this recruiting thing because it's been so much fun and it was really meaningful to me. There's nothing more important than finding a way to connect people to their job, the job that's going to fund their lives, take care of their family, put food on the table, and they're going to spend a lot of time with you. I think there's a lot of meaning in that and connecting the right people. So I found the balance of busy, fun, really cool. You meet so many different people throughout the world, and then having that meaningful piece behind it and it balancing with my life too. And then I was starting my life with who's now my husband, right? He was out where you were. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to uproot everything. Let's do this, right? We're going to dive head first and go for it. That's how I fell into staffing and talent acquisition. Who knew 20 years later, it would still be a passion of mine.
You made a bunch of decisions right there and the dominoes just fell.
Yeah.
And here you are. And it's crazy to have watched from afar, right? Because you and I only were able to work together for 2 years. It was almost 2 full years before you uprooted and moved again.
Yes.
In retrospect, listen, and that's one of those things where probably in retrospect you look back and if you would have stayed where we were, your career arc would have been completely different and may not have been what it was, right? Sometimes making the change, not just geographically, but taking that experience and applying it forward, that's the path, right? It's all about finding your path and taking that step on your ladder as you build it. Yeah. Don't take a preset ladder that everyone just expects you. Corporate America loves to throw up, this is where you're going to go. That's it. This is the direction. And there's very few branches. When you as an individual have an opportunity to build your own ladder, and drive that. You moving on for me was devastating, but in hiring you, I always knew there was a bigger purpose and plan for you. I knew there was a good chance it wasn't going to be where we were. It was going to be somewhere else. I transitioned that through my career as a learning experience to not be afraid to hire someone that has untapped, unlimited potential and could potentially grow further and faster than you can.
Yes.
Because what you can learn in that short period of time and the relationship you can build will transcend the time that you're at the same place together. Sometimes it's about opening a door for someone to walk through their future to, whether that's where you are or going somewhere else. And you don't know at some point in your career if that person is going to be a decision maker somewhere else down the line that opens a door back for you. It's
100%.
important.
100%. There's that saying, people will forget what you did for them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And, we joke and laugh about our experience with you hiring me, but you do hold a special place for me as the person who took a chance on me, making that career change, and then set the foundation for what recruiting would look like for me and for me pursuing that for the remainder of my career. And there was a feeling of, yes, I'm moving on. At that time, the recession hit. I have a saying that's men plan, God laughs, right? That's the story of my life. I love a plan. I love a blueprint. And then life is like, just kidding. That's a beautiful plan that you just made. Let's rip that up. It was not my intent to leave as early as I did and to relocate, but it was just what life had in store for us. And I've carried that with me, and the kind of leader you were. I'm going to share a quick story, something you did, and I don't know if you remember this. We were planning a recruiting event. We were doing like a holiday barbecue or something, and the goal was to have some of our current people refer people by bringing their families in and doing all this fun stuff. And we did the event, and it was successful on the day, but in terms of converting referrals, it wasn't really successful. And I said to you, we didn't really convert a lot. Here were the percentages. And you were like, yeah, I knew that wasn't going to work. And I was like, well, why'd you let me do it? And you were like, well, you had some really creative ideas, and we tried something like this before, but I thought, well, maybe her ideas will make it work. So we'll take a shot at it. We have the budget, and it might turn out to be great. And I was like, you just let me do that? And knowing there was a high chance that it was going to fail. And I loved that about your leadership style, because we all learned so much in that, and we did create new relationships, and we were able to bring other people in more creative ways. But that leadership style and that non-normal, I couldn't think of the right word, I'm sorry, but non-traditional, excuse me, your non-traditional leadership style, your non-traditional approach to recruitment allowed us to build other things and have other ideas and allow creativity to splurge. And then I think that paved the way for the leader that I became as well, in terms of looking at talent and also allowing the talent that reported into me some creative freedoms and make some mistakes that I thought I could predict, but I wanted to see if maybe they could do it differently. So you definitely had an impact on how I led after that point.
Oh, thanks, Katy. Listen, I was not always successful in my approach, and I think as a leader, you go through cycles where sometimes you get ahead of yourself, and you get, I don't want to say it's too much ego, but you start to believe that you can predict the future until the future becomes unpredictable.
Yes.
And it has a way of humbling you in its own sense, right? And it's not always a humble of you lose a job but it's a humbling of shit. How did I not see that?
Yes.
How did I miss that? How do I learn I don't want to miss that or make that mistake again?
Right.
And I think as we grow as people through our careers, whether you're in staffing or HR or operations or manufacturing, it's making those mistakes and allowing others to bring their ideas to the table, because you don't know what's going to hit and what may work and surprise you that changes the game.
Right.
I think at our core, we all want to be the game changer, and it's for various reasons. There can't be just one smart person in the room.
No.
There can't.
Nope.
Otherwise, I say all the time now, late in my career, if I'm the smartest person in this room, we are all screwed.
Yes.
Because this is not going to go well for anybody at the end of the day, right?
You are in the wrong room.
Yeah.
It's really funny that I think all of us in the staffing and talent acquisition world have taken every personality test under the sun. I used to see hiring managers put so much weight on those tests. They needed to match it and fit into this box. And it was like, you're using this completely wrong. You want the people that don't fit in your box, that don't match. And I used to have such a diverse team. And some of them were really difficult for me to manage because it was so counter to my style, right? But they brought some of the most creative ideas and the most creative ways of doing things. And you have to really create an environment of trust where people feel like so I knew with you, for example, I could make a mistake and we were going to learn from it, or I was going to grow from it, or we were going to have a conversation about it, but I didn't fear making a mistake. It's something I took with me to my team to say, they're the ones front facing, our recruiters, right? They're the ones executing every single day. They're the ones talking to candidates out there in the field. They're the ones dealing with the hiring managers. They understand their fears and pressures. And when you hire a really diverse group and you give them just enough space to flow within who they authentically are, they can identify the best talent. They can build the best relationships, and everybody wins, right? It sounds cheesy, but everybody wins when you allow that kind of space and use those tests to say, I'm going to hire this person because everything on this test says that they're different from me, but their core is the same. They're highly motivated. They're, achievement based, but the way they go about it is completely different than me. So this is going to be an adventure. Let's strap in,
Yeah, I could not agree more. Long time to undrink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, in terms of a disc assessment. You know, because there was a profile. If you were going to be in this role, you were going to be a high D, because only high Ds. All of a sudden, when you have nothing but a room of high Ds, nothing gets done because you don't want to do it. And it's a think tank that gets disconnected from the reality. So as you build a team, those tests are important because they're about communication, not about everyone thinking one way. To your point, every D needs an S.
Yes.
Every I needs a C.
Yes.
Because it's offsetting. And while the communication isn't there, and like D's get annoyed by everybody and S's are annoyed by anybody that isn't.
Yes.
Having that dispersion is so critical. So it's interesting to hear your take on how you built your teams in the future. What other lessons have you learned along the way that you could share in your journey? You obviously had a lot more next steps after you and I worked together. What has helped shape you in your next steps? You went from Benihana to Lanier. I mean, you ascended in every one of your roles as you went along. You were not a stagnant hire. So what kind of helped shape you, and what lessons did you learn taking from staffing to transition into something else and make that leap?
I think I was able to blend what you get in working from a staffing industry and an RPO, which is quantity, right? Quantity, speed. And then in the RPO environment, your money is directly tied to your placements. And then I moved over into corporate HR, and I was so lucky to have the opportunity to build talent acquisition departments from the ground up. So I was able to take my business background, degree, and then my experience in staffing and recruiting, but apply it into corporate talent acquisition. And a lot of times corporate talent acquisition gets a bad rap, right? They're so slow. They're part of HR. It's not real recruiting. And the agencies are just quantity, speed, right? So to be able to take that experience and blend it into the corporate environment and build high performing talent acquisition teams and systems with that same agency mentality of delivery speed and quantity, but balance it with the care and the connection to the business leader and what they really needed in a different way. I think that really helped shape me too, because you saw both sides of it, right? You saw the importance of the delivery of the quantity of people quickly so that the business can continue running. But you also saw the importance of the pressure on these leaders to hire and their team when you have a gap, right? And the importance of really aligning someone who fit the qualifications of the role, fit the expectations of the company, but you could see here long-term and growing and making the team better over time. So I think it was an honor for me to be able to have that experience and to be able to bring that business operations background with the staffing and RPO type of industry to corporate homes and build processes in ways that could allow for that to exist too. I think that was a big thing.
I think it's an important lesson. And recruiters and hiring managers, listen up here, because what Katy is saying is something I have said for a long time, right? Do not discount individuals in your business that can make a difference that are coming out of staffing agencies.
Yes.
Because what you got to handle in terms of exactly what Katy said, volume, constant change, multitudes of position, ever-changing priorities, budget shoestring. I mean, people coming out of staffing have faced challenges and oversight in ways that you probably haven't even thought of and imagined. And if you're discounting them for somebody that can't come in and understand your business, and it's either going to, oh, well, we won't move fast enough, or they can't apply that knowledge here. Take a look at Katy Shapiro on LinkedIn, right? Because here's a great example of why taking that chance on somebody that can articulate what they can do makes a difference.
Definitely.
You're missing out on talent.
And actually,
So,
I'm sorry if I may. It's what you,
No.
When I started with you coming out of a children's museum, I think one of the first roles I had to fill was a CNC machinist. I have no idea what this does. I was watching YouTube videos and faking it till I made it, per se. And I actually learned from the candidates. I couldn't know if they really knew what they were talking about. I remember my fiance coming home like, what are you watching? I'm like, oh, they use this machine to make this really cool tool. And there's recruiting is recruiting is recruiting. It doesn't matter where you go. It is a human skill, a special skill to know how to use the systems, how to go out, find the talent, but then how to engage them in a way that aligns with the position. The position requirements are the easy part. Finding the right talent takes a lot of effort. And I think there's a perfect blend between staffing agency recruiters coming into that.
Yeah.
Well,
and what you just said there really strikes a chord with what I think is missing from the industry today, and that is learning about the role. Yes. Right? You know, and we've both grown, like, listen, yeah, we didn't have Chat GPT, we didn't have a lot of automation back then, right? YouTube was still in its infancy, believe it or not, right? We were still placing newspaper ads. So when you had these opportunities, you had to educate yourself. Otherwise, you have no idea what you were looking for.
Yes.
And one key point right there, I learned from the candidates. Why not learn from the people that do the job?
Yes.
And then utilize the tools that are available to learn more about it. And that's what separates for me that is the separation between a recruiter and a talent acquisition person.
Okay.
So many times anymore for me, people that are saying they're talent acquisition, well, they do just the last part of that. They sit back, post a job, and try and acquire talent.
Right.
Recruiters do something very different. And I hate putting that stipulation. It's my opinion. It is not the opinion of anyone else involved with this show. It is my own personal opinion. And it's not applying to all talent acquisition people. I think a lot of companies have built talent acquisition departments and talent acquisition specialists to just acquire bases of talent. And It's screwed up our industry and screwed up recruiting. To me, it has. There's a difference.
I think there's a huge misconception about what recruiters actually do. And I think there's this misconception that's an administrative role, right? You put the people in the systems and then you push the people through the systems and you post and you pray and then you process. A lot of, in corporate recruiting, you have to have leadership buy-in to allow the recruiters to really learn the business. So I know when you and I worked together, we were in the warehouses, hard hats, steel toe boots. I didn't know what a cherry picker was at the time. I was like, what's this one do? You know, and having to learn about the different forklifts, but being able to see them and understand how they operate. And the businesses had to buy into allowing us on the floor. And I think that, you know, for corporate recruiters and people who are doing it for big corporations, you have to have the leadership buy-in to allow them to get to know the business in a different way, to see it, to do it, to spend some time on the floor, in the field, whatever it might be, learning the job. It's the best way. And recruiters have to be willing to do it, right? Sometimes they're like, I don't want to be out here. I didn't sign up for hat and boots, but guess what? You're going to be more effective if you spend time out there doing it.
Yeah. A lot like in your career, right? I'm not bashing talent acquisition because we all wind up with those National Director of Talent Acquisition titles.
Yeah.
So as you've grown and you were leading talent acquisition teams, what would you say if you could tell anyone in that industry, regardless if they're agency or at a private company in talent acquisition, what is the one thing that you would share from all your successful years that is most important to know?
You have to have a passion for people. And I know that seems really, really simple, but if you keep the human being, the person in front of you at the core of what you're doing, you will be better at your job 100% of the time. I'm going to give you an example. I had a rule for my team, and I encourage everybody to do this. If someone spoke to any of us, it doesn't matter what stage in the process, they only got to the first step and we were going to schedule a pre-screen, and that person is then declined for the job, they get a phone call. Not you call that person and you say to them, thank you for your time. I can't tell you the feedback from my teams when we did that. I've never had so many people thank me for rejecting them. And what they would say is, I've been on 30 interviews. You are the only company to call me and tell me. They would refer other people to us, because when you keep your passion for the people as your core and treat people as you would anyone else, it goes a long way in terms of filling roles you need to fill, building relationships for you to network and have those referrals coming in. And in general, it just sets you apart from your competitors, especially now with all of these AI programs funneling candidates in. It's an inhuman experience, great for efficiency, but you cannot lose that piece, because that piece, it's just the golden ticket. It's going to differentiate you from your competitors, and it's going to bring you better talent and create long-term effects for you. Passion for the people, passion for the person in front of you at your core would be the one thing that I would tell people to focus on.
I love that. And you are so spot on. This is a people business, and you got to be passionate about people. So tell me then, passionate people person, you've now made a transition and a pivot into bringing your passion for people in another direction. Tell me more about why you made that pivot, and what is it that you want to do with Unapologetic Ambition?
Sure. Thank you. So as we were talking earlier, I've always had a calling. I wanted to be a CEO forever, but I want to be a stay-at-home mom. Those two things don't really work out. I've been blessed to be a mom. And as I've grown in my career, I could never get away from that tugging of wanting to create my own business, but didn't really have that vision for what exactly I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to give back to the world in a different way. It's one thing to be in recruiting. You're dealing with a lot of people. It's really fun, right? It's really productive. You can see your achievements. But in my heart, the higher I went, the further I got from the people. And I had a moment in my career post-pandemic. I was burning out, and I had a life-changing event, the loss of my mother. And my plan was just to take a few months off and then find a new company, a new home. I was sitting there and I said, I can do something more. I think when you experience loss, it triggers something in you to look at the world a little bit differently and how you want to impact the world. I attended a few events with these great communities of women supporting women, really passionately, really genuinely. And I said, this is where I can blend my own experience of combating some of the challenges that women face when they're climbing that corporate ladder, especially in, systems built by men for men, no offense.
None taken. I don't disagree.
Having built talent acquisition systems, I've seen where we as women hold ourselves back. Men will apply for an opportunity with 60% of the qualifications. Women, 90% or more. Right? Women are judged more on personality. Men are judged more on potential. And that's conditioned in us. So we want to be liked. And we're like, oh, we can't be assertive and really advocate for ourselves. As I sat there saying, I can do more and I'm passionate about this, I can blend my experience as a woman in business with my experience building talent acquisition teams to empower women to navigate their career path on their own terms, unapologetically, authentically. I have spent a lifetime being told, Katy, you're too blunt, you're too direct. And I have spent a career telling women to stop apologizing. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Somebody will come in and say, I'm sorry, can I just ask a question? Why are you apologizing? Ambition was born out of that, because women don't need to apologize for taking up space. Women don't need to apologize for pursuing a career on their terms. Women don't need to apologize for their expertise or being the only woman in a room. I really wanted to focus on helping women navigate the career path from something as simple as resume, applying for jobs, networking, etc., but then leading where they are, right? How do you step into your power and own it and show up every day being authentically you and leading? And then also, how do you grow either where you are or grow somewhere else? I really wanted to create a company that could help women through all three of those stages. And Unapologetic Ambition was born.
Right, Katy, I love it. I absolutely love it. And listen, I don't disagree. Like part of something that I teach in recruiting is from a job post, people tend to discount others in there, right? And I use women, I use minorities as examples. Like when you say must speak English, you're trashing out people that English is their second language. They are 50% less likely to continue forward. Same with like, go back to like your single mom. If the job in the job description says, we do a lot of, we're family oriented, or we do a lot of after hours, happy hour. You're discounting individuals.
Yes.
Because it may not fit into what it is. And really, what does that mean? Is it like once a year? Is it once a month? What's the expectation? You got to think about how you put this stuff together and how your words have an effect on others and the talent that you're missing by not being smart about what you're saying.
Yes. Job descriptions are a huge problem because you don't think about the psychology of the people reading it.
Yep.
I used to hate military or battleground terminology on job descriptions that are not military or battleground based.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and not just women, but women and men, look at that and say, that's not the environment they want to be in. And they're high achievers and they're high producing and they're very aggressive in going after, if it's a sales role, the tone of the job description makes it sound like it's not somewhere that they want to be. I think you have to be really cognizant of that.
Yeah.
And knowing the psychology, when you use words like that, or to your point, mandatory happy hours and things like that, women are less likely to apply if they don't have 90% of it. You're inadvertently turning them away from your jobs and you're missing out on talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you're doing, Katy, putting together this company and working with women to understand who you are, how to own your power, how to survive in really what is a world that is kind of slated against you.
Yeah.
Right? And you go right to pay equity with that, right? I am a big proponent of this. And there is no reason that you and I should be doing the same job at two different salaries, but you got to be strong enough until the mindset changes.
Yes.
In order to get what you deserved from the beginning anyways.
Yes. And I've had great conversations with men who are learning in this because let's be fair, the male experience in life and the female experience in life are very different. And if you haven't lived it, you can't be in those shoes, just like anyone else, right? So I had conversations with some male leaders who said, I didn't realize I was giving the women on my team more stretch projects than the men in order for them to earn the promotion. And I don't know why I did that. And that wasn't fair. And I'm fixing that immediately. And thank goodness for the recognition. Thank goodness for the open mind and the willing to look at that and say, yeah, there are some societal constructs that have been built into us that we don't recognize, that bias that's in there. And also affinity bias is huge with men. If you've shared hobbies and then maybe a woman doesn't want to go deep sea fishing or golfing. I know many that do, but you lose them on that as well. Being aware of that affinity bias helps you to bring in more women and get them into the jobs as well.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you, just listen, as we round this up, because I could talk to you all day about some of this stuff. I don't think we've even gone deep enough on some of these topics. Right there to your point is the more you connect with people and the more that you're interested in learning, the more things change and the further you grow. Katy, I love how you're taking all that experience and applying it in a very different way. You're pointed on what is going to be another very successful path, not just from a coaching standpoint, but as a keynote speaker in your future. You have a lot of story that you can share in a very different way that a lot of folks can't. I cannot wait to see what you do with all of this.
Right now are the keynote talks, but I'm looking to actually add a course suite because I can't be everywhere at once. I can't be doing the keynote talks for everyone. And I really want to serve women out there and help them connect. And so we'll be launching a course suite as well. Hopefully by the end of the year, more on that to come.
Awesome. Well, keep us informed. We'd love to hear more about it. What is it, one thing that you'll now share as a business owner, right? Still early on, because the first 3 years we're like in Insaneville where you want to cry in a corner most days. What would you share with people that are just starting out or thinking of starting out? What is something important that you would like to tell them?
Find a community, right? Find a community of other entrepreneurs, business owners, and not just a community to promote your business, but a community of people who have built the business already, who are in the process of building, who are a little bit ahead of you, who are a little bit behind you. Get into that community because you don't want to be crying in a corner all alone. Sometimes you want to cry on someone's shoulder or have somebody be able to say to you, I was in that exact same position. Let me tell you how I got out of it. You're going to get out of it quicker. As an entrepreneur, and sometimes a solopreneur, community is really important. Find your community, get involved, and lean on those people to help you move further, faster, and hopefully with less tears.
Yeah, you will find your tribe.
Yes.
Katy, thank you so much for joining me today. From our first interview together years ago to where you are now, for me, it's been just an incredible pleasure to watch you grow as a person and as a professional. And for anyone listening, if you're ready to take control of your career and lead with authenticity, you need to connect with Katy. Follow her on Instagram at Unapologetic Ambition LLC for strategies and inspiration for women navigating corporate life. And if you're looking for a speaker who's direct, supportive, ready to inspire your team into action, and as you can see here, a very, very good public speaker, reach out to her at unapologeticambition.org or by email at unapologeticambition.org. We'll share all of this in our episode description and highlights. And Katy, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story today. I can't wait to have you back. I got like 4 ideas of other things we could talk about here. So don't be surprised if you're our next guest again.
I would love to.
Thank you so much for being on, Katy. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for having me and for continuing to pour into me as a colleague. I really appreciate it. It's been an honor to be on your show.
Thank you for coming on. And until next time, everybody, keep looking beyond the bottom line.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. Do you have questions for Ron or today's guest about this episode? Reach out and your question might be featured on next week's mailbag. You can learn more about Ron and Elevate Talent Solutions at elevate-talent-solutions.com or on LinkedIn. This podcast was edited and produced in partnership with Adrian Rishart, principal of boutique marketing firm ACR Ventures. Check her out at acrventures.com for all your small business marketing needs. Be sure to hit that follow button and send us love letters and episode ideas to Ron Miller at elevatetalentsolutions.net. Tune in next week, and thanks for listening.